Jody. I wanted to provide a video for you on the first three chords, or actually four chords, of that Voyage to Atlantis. And the notes I said during the lesson was the D on the fifth string, fifth fret, and then sixth string, fifth fret for the A, and then the G, or I'm sorry, the third fret, sixth string for the third chord. But I'm actually going to change that. I was actually hearing different parts of the chords after I had a chance to kind of take a closer listen to it. They're actually playing, now I'll give you the full chords just so you can kind of see what they are, but we'll work on them just one note at a time. But it starts out with a G major 7. And it stays on that for 4 beats. So it's kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it goes to what's called a F sharp minor 7. And that's just barring this finger and then putting this finger on the 5th string. And we'll go over all of these in more detail. And then it goes to an E7 chord, which is probably the easiest chord because it takes one finger, and this is one of the kind of more basic chords that we'll be working with as well. One finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, and you strum all 6 strings. So it's only a one finger chord there. And then it goes to what's called an A chord, A sus chord. And actually, this is just a A chord. They're just kind of... And each chord, I believe, gets 4 strums. So you have this 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or, I'm sorry, So, and that's the main groove that the verse is over, and the bridge is a little bit different. But, so we're just going to learn it, again, with one note, and the root note of the chord is what we're going to be playing. And the root note of a chord is just the, not necessarily the lowest note all the time, but usually is the lowest note, and it's the name of the chord. So this is a G major 7. And if we review our chromatic alphabet, if this is, and remember the name of our string, playing the string open is E, the first fret would be F, F sharp, and then G. So we're starting with the G, just 4 strokes. And again, when you're playing with your right hand, you just want to alternate between your index and middle. So you just kind of count along with it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to move back just a half step. And remember, each one of these squares or frets are a half step away from the previous and the next. So, so just moving 1 is a half step. So we're going to stay on the same 6th string, moving from the 3rd fret to the 2nd fret. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to do the E, where you're just playing it open. Now again, that E7 chord, you want to, if you want to try and play the full chord, you just want to take your middle finger, your 2nd finger of your left hand, and put it on the 2nd fret of your A string, and you strum all the strings. And basically at this point, we're just trying to get the bottom of our finger not to mute out that string that's right under there. And then the A chord is just the 5th string open. And again, you can try and put your one finger on that 2nd fret of the next string and try and plug those together to get the power chord. Which brings me to the next kind of level of difficulty. If you can easily kind of get through that just with one note, and staying on beat, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And make sure you can always go back around what they call the turnaround, where you get to the end of the riff and you start playing the beginning again without any interruption. So, you know, as you're playing that A chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, you just start it over in pace with the tempo that you're playing. And it's important to try and count out loud, so it kind of develops an awareness of the timeline as we go through it. And remember, you can just play this E chord open and the A chord open if you want to simplify it to just that. You know, you want to kind of, with all this stuff, you want to try and find a pace that you can do it at and then go from there. Remember, it's all primarily on this 6th string here. So I'm just playing the 6th string, and even when I move to that 2nd fret, I'm still playing that 6th string. And again, we want to kind of get used to the rest strokes and using our index and middle. So we'll be using index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, and then when you go up to this 5th string, see if you can do that rest stroke where after you pluck the note, your finger grips onto that E string as your next finger reaches to play that A string again. And you just kind of have this teeter-totter effect between your index and middle finger. Every time I'm reaching with one finger, the other finger is kind of anchored to that string before it. And you're just kind of lightly pressing into the guitar as you're doing this. Okay. Now it'll take a little more, you know, the longer your nail is, the more kind of precise you got to kind of be with it. But everybody kind of develops their own settings in terms of, you know, how long their nails are and stuff. So, but it will be a little bit more control with the shorter nails if there was if you were, you know, considering shortening the nails just for the playing purposes or whatnot. But let's go over this kind of next level of difficulty. Okay, so as you got your one finger here playing your G at the 3rd fret of the 6th string, we can also try and reach the 5th fret of the next string at the same time, and make sure that you have this fret in between it, this 4th fret. So I got my one finger on the 6th string 3rd fret, and at the same time I'm going to hold my 3 finger on the 5th fret, or the 5th string 5th fret, to play that D that we were originally kind of talking about. And when you're doing this, you can practice with your thumb and index or thumb and middle to try and pinch the 2 strings at the same time. Okay, so that'll get you started on that Isley Brothers song. And again, like the main chords are a little bit more elegant. You know, there's all kinds of like little tricks that you can do once you start to learn the other members of the chords. But for right now, the if you can, get up to where these are called power chords, where you're just playing 2 notes of the chord just to create a little bit of a harmony effect. Oh, and actually we're moving down to the 2nd fret. And you want to kind of get used to having, when you're doing any kind of chord form like this, you can practice just moving it all around and try and get the fingers to move together, rather than, you know, trying to kind of move this one up and then that one. You know what I mean? You want to try and move them in one uniform form. Okay, so we'll take it from there next week and just see how you do with that. You know, experiment with some of the different ways that I talked about playing it, and see if you can kind of just develop a consistent tempo while you're counting out loud in groups of 4.